We are live now. Commissioners, we're live now.
But I'm not.
Okay, it's 5:05 and I'm going to call to order the Tree Commission meeting for the city of DuPont. And so do roll call, Zach?
Yes, and I want to just say one thing. I missed the introduction on this for our new tree commissioner. So we'll do the roll call and then let's welcome him and thank him for joining us. We're full.
Absolutely. Super exciting.
Commissioner Pasley,
Present.
Vice Chair Clark,
Present.
Chair King,
Present.
Commissioner Peak,
Present.
Commissioner Lindsay,
Present.
And Commissioner Lindsay is our newest member. Thank you again. Welcome.
He doesn't have a bullet point on here where we make him tell him about himself, and didn't we used to do that to everybody? No,
Well, we if he feels like he'd like to introduce himself,
I can ask him. Commissioner Lindsay, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here?
My name's Spencer Lindsay. I'm from Arkansas. It's my wife, Katie. She's from Missouri. We're both in the military. That's how we got up here. We met Miss Kelsey at the DuPont Farmers Market. I signed up that evening and now I'm here.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
A
thank you.
lot. And we are at public comment. Anybody online? Anybody in the audience?
no one online at the moment. Anyone in chambers wants to make a comment?
I've invited Kate to talk to us about one of the agenda items.
And so next is the approval of the agenda. So anything anybody wants to add or change?
I don't have anything.
Okay, anybody else? No, all looks good. All those in favor of approving the agenda as is stated? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any nays?
Aye.
And the approval of the minutes. Which I'm going to look at really, really quickly.
I motion to approve the minutes from September 8th, 2025.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 You could also abstain since you
Oh.
weren't here. And we're on to discussion items. And the first item is our Ask an Arborist event. And just for Spencer, will explain, we came up with this idea at the last meeting for our Arbor Day event that is not on Arbor Day. And it's part of our, we're starting to look toward community involvement and how we get the messaging out about trees. And so part of it's like learning, what does this community know or not know? And so at the last farmers market, we asked people if they had any questions. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Padsley.
Yeah, so just so everybody's aware, City of DuPont is a Tree City USA. That is a designation done by the Arbor Day Foundation. It's voluntary. It doesn't mean anything, but it's really cool. Well, I guess I said it doesn't mean anything. It does mean that the City of DuPont is committed to the trees in its community. But it's not like a federal program. It's run by a nonprofit. And I believe we've been at Tree City USA for a while. Yeah, and there's only 3 things you have to do to maintain that status is the mayor or whoever is the leader of the city government has to make an Arbor Day proclamation, which they normally do during like a city council meeting. You have to spend, I think it's $2 per capita on trees in your community, which is fairly easy to do. Some communities, they have 1 staff member and their salary covers that. It could be on maintenance or planting, anything related to trees. Yeah, and usually your existing city functions are related to trees in some way, so it's pretty easy to do. And then the third thing is you have to host an Arbor Day event. And there's nothing that says when you do that. And we missed Arbor Day this year, so we're hosting a late Arbor Day event. And we wanted to do something that the community could be involved in, would be educational, but would also be free because we don't have any money for it. So we decided, because I'm an arborist for my work, everybody always wants to ask someone who's knowledgeable about trees their burning tree question. So we decided to do an Ask an Arborist event where people can submit questions. We've got the very nice box where people can put in their questions. We collected questions at the last farmers market. And then at the next tree committee meeting, we will be answering those questions live. Hopefully. Hopefully, because hopefully I will be here because my wife is pregnant. But I should be here. All the timing says I should be here. And we got a list. I'm going to try to answer as many of those in writing beforehand, just in case I'm not here or I'm only here partially, but not mentally, because of, sleep deprivation and stuff. So that we can actually answer those questions. And Kelsey, you sent me the list that we have so far. It actually looks like really good questions, like stuff that would really help people, help them understand just tree care in general, kind of the relationship of them and the city and the care of the trees here, and even some state laws that we have regarding Gary Oaks, which is very exciting if you're a tree nerd. So it's looking good. I'm very excited about it.
Very cool. The questions were interesting, sort of teasing out what people's questions actually were. They'd throw out a zinger and it'd be like, what are you actually asking about it? It was really interesting when you were trying to parse out what they actually wanted to know. It's just going to be an interesting exercise, and it should be a very interesting event, I think.
Yeah.
And we did receive one additional in our fancy box that someone dropped in, and their question is, what is the best way to prune maple trees so they don't get too huge? So I'll add that to the list. And I think to do this event, we have it scheduled for our November 10 regular meeting. And so we'll want to get some sort of advertising out about this, and hopefully we can get people to participate, listen in.
To add to that, I did create, and so I know we've gone over this a lot, and there hasn't been like, this is what you do, but I did create an email. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but just to plug in everyone who signed up on the farmer's market. And then I created a draft email. So I guess I could send that out, but I definitely wanted to get it out within the next couple of weeks so that we can get
Yeah.
any questions beforehand. I just didn't want to send it out too
early.
soon before this meeting. And then I also sent out to everybody a draft tree survey. So if anyone has any questions to add to that, I created a survey and then it wanted me to pay for stuff. So I need to go create it in something else that it doesn't need me to pay for, but I think I can create it through Google email, something. There's some other way I can create it for free. So that would be the next thing to send out to everybody. But definitely that'll be a good way to get questions from people who signed up through us. Yeah, that's all I had for that.
I thought I had it off the top here. It wasn't that long ago that
Yeah.
you sent it. Huh.
I sent Bridget an email from it and I should probably write it down.
I know, it's not, okay, well, it's not gonna work. We need to find it. Anything else on Ask an Arborist? No? Okay. The next is our tree canopy assessment data. And just as an aside, I passed out a sheet that's partly comprehensive plan, but it's partly what we talked about with DNR when they came to visit us about how to do a local inventory and things like that. So mainly just so that we all know what we talked to DNR about, and we want to schedule to meet with them again. And they also greatly reined in our that's all I remember about the last meeting was like, we were out here and by the end of the meeting, we had I don't know, 5 things. So they gave us a real reality check.
Well, this is really helpful, and you guys, thank you. Our last agenda item, 6.4, is about the comp plan update, so I think this is very timely. And we can talk more about how these goals that you have could be incorporated. So as far as the assessment itself goes, what
Yeah, so I went ahead and started one and I spent a bit of time on it and I had a lot of different points and then exited out of it and went to go back into it and I had an issue there. So I'm gonna have to figure out, I think I have to start a new one because I can't figure out how to get back into the other one. And then I have to figure out how to get back into it once I create it.
Was that an iTree?
That was iTree, yeah. So I created one and then I had an issue getting back into it. Like it couldn't find it or something, but it was saving it the whole time. So I got annoyed with it and now I need to circle back around to it. But I did start it and it is really easy. I'm just going to have to figure out how to get back into it so other people can get into that same one. And we can get back into the same one.
is the idea then with iTree, is that one where people build on your inventory that they can?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll give you points. You just have to confirm what it is. So like it'll put a point on a road and then it'll like it could say like it's a road or it's a building or it's a tree. And for the most part, it was pretty accurate while I was doing it, but there were definitely some where it was saying it was trees, but it was like a building or something. So, yeah, it's just a very repetitive, easy thing for people to go in and do.
And so then maybe we would just put a link on our webpage and
Yeah, I
invite
think
them
we
to
could send
update
a
it?
link out probably to anyone who signed up to do it, maybe that way.
I ran into, so I went to the, I don't know what they're called now, the Climate Action Committee. And there was somebody there that had just done the whole thing with volunteers. And I have her contact information, and you're reminding me that I was
Okay,
supposed
so
to
maybe,
contact
yeah.
her. But also they were using a different program.
Hmm.
And they weren't using iTree. And so you and I need to get together offline because I totally blew that. I should have brought it with me. It seemed like it was easier, and she did it with volunteers and also trained. We were going to have Celeste and Zima come back to train the eyeball part of it and possibly the coding part of it. And they thought that would take 2 sessions, like 2 afternoons or something with volunteers to actually get everybody up and running on it. But I want to know if this program might be better.
Yeah, I
Then-
know iTree was the free one, and that's why we were going to go that route. So I
Right. I think this one's free as well. And it's not a tree canopy program per se. Maybe I'll send it to both of you to see what it is. It seemed too good to be true, but if it was true and it was that easy for them to do.
yeah.
But I apologize because I made a note on that and I did not bring it. Was there on the canopy assessment, did we find out any more about the, I don't want to say drone, but the robotic sort of a LiDAR or
The LiDAR stuff, the challenging part with that is a lot of them are looking for like an ongoing commitment to do like multiple scans from year to year. And it just felt overkill for where we're at. Like once we have like a more developed tree code
Mhm.
and maybe the beginnings of a tree inventory, it could be useful, but I don't know that we're quite there yet. It's also expensive.
Oh.
I think Commissioner Pasley makes a good kind of comment about, where are we today and where do we want to go? Because we recognize that we can strengthen our goals and policies. We recognize that we need to strengthen our code. And I think we just want to keep working towards that. If we can think about what we are going to be able to accomplish in this comp plan cycle, and then I would envision that every year this is a topic on your work plan to really think through and to make for our annual comp plan amendment, to make a recommendation for the planning commission on whatever it is that you feel should be considered to be incorporated or updated in the plan or regulations.
Anything else on canopy assessment? No. Okay, the potential event with the ROA to celebrate the life of a Doug fir tree.
Doesn't that pique your interest?
It certainly does. I didn't catch it in the agenda at the first look.
So I had a really nice meeting with the ROA last Friday, and we were just talking about a lot of things. The ROA is the Residential Owners Association, so Northwest Landing's governing folks, not all of them, but Shirley Ely and Kate came along. She's their not marketing, but communications person. But in this discussion, we talked about many things and how the city and ROA could maybe think about coordinating. And this tree story came out of the discussion. So I invited Kate here to come up and talk about that, summarize that conversation. Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll make sure you have a microphone. The microphone line? Yeah, let me get a microphone.
Oh, there's one up there.
Here's one. Is there one up there? Oh, okay, good. Does it work? No? Can you hear it?
Should I speak louder? Okay, I'm going to use this one. Okay, this will. Okay, there we go. Okay, hi, everybody. I'm Kate Lynch. And I work as a communications consultant for the Northwest Landing Residential Owners Association. It came to our attention last week that we've been working with Davy Tree, and we also worked with other arborists. But we have a tree that is on one of the green spaces on Center Drive. I can't tell you exactly where it is because I don't know where it is. And Barb and I are going to go out and take pictures on Thursday to find out where it is. But it's a Douglas fir that it's likely between 150 and 200 years old. It's 42 inches in diameter. So that's about 160, correct? Something like that. So it's going to have to come out because it's split, okay? And it's ready to drop branches onto a walkway. And the ROA will be replacing it with another tree, and maybe you guys can help with selecting that, because what we've heard from our arborist is that the largest tree diameter they can get is a 3-inch diameter tree. There must be better options. Anyway, I think it should be a bigger tree. But I don't know if you know the tree that's out here, this wood that's out here in the lobby, that was a Gary oak that was on ROA property that had to come out for the same reason. It was rotted through, and we replaced it with another Gary oak. And there was a woodworker in town that took that wood and turned it into a bowl, and then there's a slice of wood. But we were thinking we might have some time, and the ROA can certainly fund some things. If we could think about some sort of an event to celebrate the life of that Douglas fir, because as you know, they can live to be 400 or 500 years old or older. But in this kind of environment, probably not quite as long as up in Mount Rainier. So just wanted to throw that out to see if you want to discuss it some more, and we can take some. We have not discussed this with the board. It came up at a board meeting. So I don't want to talk out of turn in terms of what the ROA would be willing to add to, in addition to taking the tree out and putting a new tree in. But this is an opportunity. We love trees in this town. And I think that there may be some ways, and maybe we can come up with some ideas to repurpose the wood, that it would be local. We have several woodworkers in town that maybe we can do. I don't have any idea what that would cost, because we're also having trouble finding, as I'm sure you're aware, an arborist that can take out a 200-year-old tree. So I think we're going to be going with A+ tree service. They're doing some other work for the ROA, and they say that they can do that. Davy can't. I thought that was odd, because they do everything that has to do with trees. But anyway, so thought that we'd throw that out there in terms of, because this really came up like literally last week. But we don't want a tree that has lived that long to just depart. I don't.
Yeah, we just thought that, we're always trying to get people engaged and educate them and get them to love trees,
Right.
because I don't know if a lot of people even think about it, but that's an important life that
Mhm.
unfortunately it has to end. But so we thought maybe you guys might want to do some sort of an event, and that's why I invited Kate to talk to you a little more
Thank
about
you
it.
so much. How long do we have to
That's a good question.
get the
I'm
creative
not,
juices going?
I'm not sure because we need to go out and see how far along it is. You want to come with us, you're welcome to. And, see what kind of timing we have. I don't think it needs to come down immediately. It's been that way for a while. So, I think we have some time. The other thing I'd like to bring up is that we have a monthly newsletter or monthly bulletin that goes to 2,800 homes. That's most of DuPont. So anything that you guys want to go out to DuPont residents, I'll get it out there. We're going to do the same thing with the city comprehensive plan. I'm also a planning commissioner, so.
Yeah, well, definitely with the Ask an Arborist, the Arbor Day event, if we could get that in there somehow.
that
That's
again?
next month.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had the same question, I think last year about because we may be losing a heritage tree and there's just different like special trees that might be coming down. And I was like, how could we revitalize that wood into something that can continue to live in the community? So I love that direction.
Well,
and
that's-
I think that even if we could do like a couple like benches or something and maybe get the rest of it mulched and use that for like upcoming like I don't know, like there's so many things that we could brainstorm on and come up with possibilities, and that just kind of ignites that in people, like seeing this big tree and like, okay, but we've recycled its life, and
Right.
we were supported in doing that. So I think that's a great idea. I really like that you were all brainstorming because that's where my brain's always at. Like, how can we still use this, and how can it still be a part of the community? But yeah, I'm sure if we have a little bit of time, we could come up with something. Maybe we can, put some feelers out with people in the community and see if anyone has, connections or ideas of people who could do something for us. So,
Well,
And also the History Society, because it's going to be, what did this tree see,
Right.
Mhm.
kind of thing. So they may have some ideas as well.
So why don't we just, you kind of brainstorm and Kate can figure out what I know when we talked, you were still needing to get
not sure.
estimate on the tree cutting, get it before your board.
Right.
And does your board meet monthly?
They will be.
So I mean, I think we got some time to, and so if you have ideas, send them, I can just kind of be the liaison, yes, send them to, well, I don't really
can
have,
give you my contact info and you can send them directly to me. It'd be faster.
okay, sounds good to me. Yeah.
Okay.
And then maybe we can work something out, even, like I said, even if it's just an event, you guys are pretty good at showing up and at events.
We're good at brainstorming and wild ideas. And so I'll just caveat that if you get emails directly from us, they're not city approved yet. They are our wild ideas.
Okay.
I also wanted to throw out that I am a woodworker and have access to a full shop. So I can, if we get a good idea of something we want to build, I can definitely do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming.
You bet.
Yeah. Now, would you like to start editing the comprehensive plan while you're waiting?
No.
Okay.
Later.
So that was Doug Furr. And now we're on to 6.4, the comprehensive plan update,
Yeah.
tree canopy goals and policies.
So
I have
I,
one more comment.
yes.
Just when the tree does come down, it would be really interesting to get documented the rings that are on that tree, because we get a very accurate count of how old it is.
Yeah. That'd be neat.
You can do that, right?
You just really literally just count with a pair of tweezers or something and.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah. Okay.
It could be fun for kids to do.
You know what? It might, yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. See, you guys are already off. That's good.
Back to the comprehensive plan update and the tree canopy goals and policies.
Yes, so I've handed out Chapter 7 Parks, Trails and Recreation. And the reason why you have that in front of you is because I know we've talked about the natural environment goals and policies and in that chapter. And so this handout that you brought me, we'll do a check through to see if we need to incorporate any of these. We're sort of running out of time because we were supposed to get this thing adopted by the end of the year, and there's hearings and process. But that's why I said, even if we don't do everything we want to do in this by the end of this year, let's just keep plugging along every year. But one thing that was, because I do think our natural environment goals and policies probably could need more work, but what was completely missing that we cannot miss is the Growth Management Act. This has been amended in the last, it's either the last legislative cycle or the one before, that now requires the parks chapter to include a assessment to be able to address tree canopy. So that is what I've drafted it up a little bit. It's the element specifically you'll see on page 7.1 where it says the specifically shall include an evaluation of tree canopy coverage within the urban growth area. So that's required in this chapter. So recognizing that, what we have done, and I welcome your thoughts about this. The Planning Commission is going to be seeing this draft for their first time at 6:30 and discussing it. So it's timely for any input that you have tonight for me to forward that to them. So if you go to page 7.2 and the second paragraph there, it's not a lot, but it's what I had to work with, and that's the DNR's estimating that our tree canopy is at 29%. And I'll have to cite the source. It's that map that they have where you go, oh, thank you. And so this is the paragraph that I've drafted to be able to satisfy the chapter goals, and we can just zoom right in on that second. It's on page 7.2, so page 2 of the document, and it's the second paragraph where it says Washington State. Perfect. So Washington State Department of Natural Resources, DNR, estimates the DuPont citywide tree canopy at 29%. This represents an overall average that takes into account the city's open space areas that are heavily treed and protected with the areas that have been developed for residential and commercial uses. The city has long recognized that stewardship and sustainable management practices are vital to continuing community health and resiliency as the impacts of climate change and population growth strain the environment. DuPont is a tree city with an active tree commission that works to protect and care for its tree canopy through education and outreach as it promotes tree protection policies and regulations. So I invite your thoughts about that. If you feel like that needs any editing, or you have additional input, because then it gets into the goal, which we can talk about after you give me sort of your first blush on this paragraph. Commissioner King, I can see you want to say something.
So some of the natural environment plans I looked at definitely went into, I think in this area. So is this the context, which part of it is this? This is the, they all seem to have, even in the natural environment chapter, a vision statement and then a context and then and then the like plans and goal, I don't know, it was like aspirations and goals. And so is this where we would, so we're at 29% and we need to conserve
This is.
what we have, replace what we're gonna lose, and they do say that in there, maintain, restore, and expand, because we have to get to, depending on what you want, 36% for 10 degrees of climate resilience, or 40% is what most of the cities have put for, I don't know what reason.
Okay, so this is, and the parks chapter is slightly different, like what you're
Okay.
explaining on the format, only because we have a adopted park plan that is
Okay.
adopted and incorporated, which has all the vision and everything.
Okay,
But
and this is
normally-
just a parks sub, or,
So this is an element in the comp plan that reaches into the Prost plan and just sort of summarizes that. But what it does, and so that's what you see, the purpose and relationship to the GMA, but then you see on page 7.3, the goals and policies. So where you're wondering, so that little paragraph was just to set context for tree canopy. And that
Okay.
it's a thing, right? It's a thing that we have to discuss.
Yeah.
But then you go down into the goals and you'll see that, and this is where I think we can have, where you could really give me some good input. If you go down to goal 5, Zach, the last goal, and the policies underneath that, is increase and enhance the city's tree canopy is just the stated goal here. And then these policies that could rest under it. Now, the thing that we talked about early on, but we weren't really quite ready, and maybe we are, is I wasn't sure if we were ready to put a percent of the tree canopy that we wanted to achieve yet.
I feel like we can easily probably get that percentage somehow, and so that we have a number and maybe like be able to break it down year over year or by what year, or
I thought there was a best available science number that I've read doing climate, because originally I was on the climate adaptation part of this, and that's where I drew my numbers from. Obviously, I'd like it like 80% covered in trees.
living in trees.
Exactly, and that's what Bellevue said. They are, what did they say? A city in a park. No. Is that what it said? Yeah, a city in a park. I really like that image. I want that image. That's like 75% tree coverage or something. But James,
I think, so my knowledge of the region comes largely from tree inventories, and what I have heard secondhand. So all up and down the sounds, you've got a range of cities that have different amount of tree canopy coverage. So we have 29%, which is solidly average compared to other cities. So like City of Tacoma is currently,
I think 23.
20, yeah,
They were
it's pretty
23.
low, because I mean the entire city was deforested in like the early 1900s. Whereas you have cities like Bellevue, which are closer to 40%. So I think different cities have different, like you can set goals that are reasonable and attainable for your city that still might be lower than another city. So certain areas further up north and further away from the sound have a much higher percentage of canopy coverage because they're less developed. And they just have regular forest, which is great. But it's also, if you're a city that has more development, like Tacoma, it's unreasonable to try to hit 45% because you literally do not have the space. So I think what I'm getting at is we don't want to shoot the moon and set an unreasonable goal for ourselves, but I do think it would be appropriate to set a goal because then we are putting pressure on the rest of the city. It's like, okay, we've said this is a goal. Is this action that we're about to take moving towards that goal or away from that goal? Where it's maybe.
I didn't
we're
know we
not
had the baseline.
Yeah, we have a
Improving.
baseline. Right.
Mine was always about the climate, and it was, I think if you look in the papers, it's either 35 or 36% coverage is the goal for climate resiliency. And that was where I wanted to start, even though I would love to be 75%. It is not real because as you go on down the DNR thing, it's, you know, for the rest of us, it's waste removal, which I got educated on, but, you know, all those things become a part of it when you get massive amounts of trees. So I can get you the exact percent. It's either 35 or 36%. If that sounds reasonable, if we should go higher.
And we have to justify it. It has to be achievable. I mean, we've
Yeah.
got to put it in here and we've got to talk about why that's right. So we have to be prepared that, you know, that we can justify and then, and it has to be obviously something that could be achievable. And then, you know, is it a matter of incrementally? So the comp plan is a 20-year horizon, long-range horizon. So like, Commissioner Clark was saying, like, you know, maybe it's sort of like we want to increase by 2% every year or up to, or, you know, something like that could be attainable. So I think we want to think about how that looks.
Yeah, and you know, taking into consideration that we're at 29% now, but how much development is planned, and so that's a lot of trees. And so like, how does that look, and how can, you know, individuals help contribute to that? And so I think
Mhm.
that, you know, there's a lot that goes into that number, but I do remember reading somewhere that typically it's between like for cities between 30 and 40%. So it would just, and yeah, it depends on like the city and where they're starting at. But yeah, it would be an individualized goal for what we need. But if we are able to just start somewhere and then we can explain to people like what individuals can do, what like we can be doing, and create actual plans and actual work that we can like see developing that plan. And I know, you know, with the development, there's probably requirements for the developers to add back in some of that, or I don't know.
There's landscaping and tree, but again, what we have to do is start with this and then let's say, for example, then we have to do a lot of calculation basically on, okay, you know, what, in terms of what we have adopted for the old Fort Lake sub area, for example, you know, we have requirements for landscaping and tree percentage. We do outside citywide too, but what we're not quite yet in the stage of, that'll start next year, of looking at whether or not the regulations are adequate to, and when I say adequate, okay, so that's where we have to, that's the piece we're talking about right now. Adequate to do what? Adequate to make sure that we don't lose 29%, adequate to ensure that we get up to 30%. That's what we kind of need to sort of figure out. And again, this is something that we could work on over time, because we want to make sure that we're choosing things and being thoughtful and being able to really explain and justify where we're heading. And yeah.
And that's interesting. Like, as we're doing this tree canopy assessment, like
Yeah.
for the places that we know for sure are being developed, I wonder if there's a way to kind of remove those areas or something in the assessment, or do one without, one with, or
Well, I think what would be really interesting, because when I looked at the map, you know, and I apologize because at the top of my head, I cannot recall what the site was. I have the link and I can send you all where I was looking, but you can clearly see the work that's been done on this particular mapping program that shows, you know, that average is 29% overall. But you see areas that are open space that were up to like 45%. And you see, you know, some of the villages where they're already built out that are, you know, dropping a little lower than that. I think 23 was the lowest that I saw. So in terms of opportunity, and again, it all comes back to the main goal, like I think that we could all say for sure that we don't want to drop below 29%. And so I feel like maybe until we do the work where we start looking at the gain and how that gain would take place, because say we've got 29% and then we figure out like, well, no, we'd really need to work up to whatever it is, 30, 33, 35, 40, whatever it is. And then we have to talk about how can we achieve that. And so how can we achieve that could be multi-pronged, right? It could be in sort of encouraging people to plant a tree in their backyard that may not have one now, or maybe they have one tree and they're going to plant 2 trees on the private property side. And maybe it's, of course, then the developer, if they're developing the greenfield, making sure that our standards and our requirements are such that that percentage of tree loss in that area is minimized or replanted. So there's a lot to it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I don't know that we have the time to be able to do all the work we need to do. So what I'm asking you for is, what do you think we can, you know, what are you comfortable with here with what we have? So the goal of, you know, we want to increase and enhance. We don't say increase by how much, because I didn't have any idea what that should be. And maybe we don't need to on this goal. We're going to be saying it would be enough as written to make sure that we don't, when development happens, we don't lose that the benchmark that we start at. And then what do those policies look like? So the policy 5.1 is promoting streetscape and public space improvement projects that incorporate tree canopy and vegetation requirements, which I think we already do, but again, we need to test it. Policy 5.2, aspire to conduct tree canopy assessments on a regular schedule and to maintain up-to-date tree inventories. That's a big one for us, that I feel like that's the missing tool for us to really understand what we're working with. And then 5.2 is engage public through educational materials and tree planting events to care for existing and plan for new tree plantings in priority areas. So there could be a lot more here. This is bare bones for sure.
How long is, so I guess I was looking at a 10, 20 year, you know, how long is this language purposed for? This, if we choose 35%, you know, if we choose 2% per year, are we doing that for 20 years? What's the-
Yeah, so this is a 20-year plan, but it can be amended annually. So so if you were to figure out what that percentage increase would be and got it into the plan, then it would be, I mean, unless it were to be amended later on, that would be, you're right, you could say it annually, you could say it, you tie it to this assessment. So every year you assess it, you see where you're at, very much like they do with the buildable lands requirement that we have. So, you know, the legislature requires that certain counties and cities are having to do inventories of housing and report, like, are you actually increasing your housing stock by the amount that you're supposed to, sort of sense. This would be, in my mind, a similar exercise that we could do.
even though I would like to set a goal, one of the concerns I have is I am unsure if we have policies or program in place to increase our canopy.
Right.
And perhaps maybe that would better be a goal, is to start thinking what kind of programs or policies we want as a city and as a community to increase our canopy. Because it's either largely the two ways to do that are to preserve existing trees or to plant new trees. And it sounds like with new development, there are going to be trees cut down, even if they preserve and even if they replant, we're going to see a drop right at that new development because they'll clear the land.
Right.
And it hasn't sounded like in my few months here that we really have like active tree planting programs aside from what we just did. It sounded like
Right.
that was it.
Right. That's exactly right. We don't.
So I feel like to set a goal, like a specific goal, we need to have ideas on how to get there. And I don't know that maybe the first goal is to come up with those ideas. I don't know if that made sense.
So the first goal would be to develop programs and policies that somewhere it has to, so I'm always on the citizen end of this is where I'm always thinking when the legislative intent is not present. And so if we don't say what our aspirational goal is, which is to be a city in a park or a well-treated city, or somehow indicate that with some kind of structural short, mid, long-term plan for it, then, you know, what I see is somebody comes in and goes, "No, doesn't seem like you really care about trees. There's nothing, no line item in your budget about trees. There's no policy about this. So no, we don't," or, "Oh, there's nothing that says you have to keep trees," or, you know, and it always circles back. Every hearing examiner, every single thing I've ever fought comes back to what was in the comprehensive plan and how clearly it was stated or not. So that's me. I don't want it to be where you can come in and plop something down and not have to have it seamlessly integrated.
I wonder if we should say, and I hear you, and I agree with you, but actually both of you are making sort of the same point about what we do need to do. But I'm just wondering, for the purpose of this document for this year, that rather than increase, we maybe say maintain and enhance our existing, because that would give us enough language to use if we're doing our development review, to be able to require, for example, you know, additional mitigation or something like that for tree planting. If they are doing development and they're gonna have to remove trees, you have to let them do it. But then we could point to like, well, you know, we have the comp plan here says we have 29%, and in your area, you know, you're gonna have to help us maintain that 29%. So clear what you need to build, but that gives us the number of trees that they, you know, the percentage of the landscape that has to be replanted to maintain the 29%.
I have a curiosity about this because if a large old growth tree is being removed and you put in a little tree, that's not the same canopy. So how does that look?
Well,
Like, how does that number go into that? Because one tree to one tree, like that's not
That
going to
would,
give you the
that's
same
probably
amount of
not, yeah,
canopy.
that's like yeah. And you're shaking your head because that's a little bit outside of my area of expertise, you know, how they measure tree canopies. I can count trees on a development plan, and I can make
I
sure
don't
that
know if we have that was
calipers of
broken
trees are
down.
replaced with calipers of trees. That's usually what we've been focusing on, is the tree caliper. But the actual canopy measurement, I don't know how that works, and maybe Commissioner Pasley knows.
Yeah, so one of the most effective ways to preserve your canopy is to preserve the existing large trees, because when you remove one and you replant one, but you've got a giant tree versus a little dinky lollipop tree. And it's going to take potentially 70 to 150 years to get that same amount of canopy coverage, which none of us will ever see. And it's assuming the tree survives and that it grows to its full size and that somebody doesn't come in and top it. So in my job, oftentimes they have a canopy percentage requirement. So if they remove trees or they preserve trees, however, whether they're preserving existing trees or replanting new trees, they have to hit a certain benchmark based on the zone of the city, like residential or commercial. And it's kind of tough because at least how we do it at my work, which is City of Tacoma, we don't have to do how they do it here, is you're basing it off of where the tree could anticipated mature size. Mm-hmm. And we set a requirement that is like, okay, if you cut down trees, you have to replant enough that you should reach 25% canopy coverage for this property. So it's,
I feel like there should be like a maximum amount of old growth trees you even can remove.
and you can add in like code
That should
protections for
be-
that.
Yeah.
So like you could say the trees over 24 inches, you cannot remove. You have to learn to build around them. Or you could say if you remove them, you have to pay a canopy loss fee that gets paid into the city for planting other trees elsewhere in the city. It's like there's lots of things you can do, but we've got to set goals for, we want to protect and enhance our forests, and then we can work towards like writing specifics into our city code. It's like, okay, how do we want to do this? Are we going to protect trees during development? Are we going to plant new trees? Are we going to do some combination of that?
That circles back though to me to, is it the code and policy first, or is
Policy
the
first,
goal?
goals and policies first, and they're implemented through the regulations.
Yeah.
And so you do it, you don't do it in the comprehensive plan, you do it there first? Because it seems to me like it ought to be stated in the plan first. Your plan is to restore.
That's
You
what
know,
we're saying, yeah.
yeah,
It's the comp
okay.
plan goals and policies that come first,
Okay.
and that they are implemented in your regulations.
Yeah. They will write codes and regulations based off of what the plan says we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm. And I liked what I heard though, because the canopy percentage requirement, even though, so I'm still on this track of what can we do now, right? With what with what time constraints I have to get this adopted. But I think that if we're thinking about the maintaining and enhancing, we could, so right now we do have protections that are based on, tree caliper and protected tree species, whether or not they're the Gary oaks or they're trees of a certain size. And so we don't just let those be cut down unless they have to go through a whole nother process to be able to do that. But what we don't have is anything that talks about the canopy assessment. And I'm just wondering if we have a goal that says we're going to maintain and enhance our tree canopy, that maybe what we do is think about it as a canopy requirement. And if we don't have a canopy requirement, but we could require developer to provide so right now they have to provide a tree plan and show us, show us where all the trees are and what they are, identify them and their size, whether or not they can be removed by the code. And if they're not supposed to be removed, then you got to ask for a tree modification. that sort of thing, that I think we could do that the same way with a tree canopy requiring developer to provide, and that would be a policy here under this goal, that we require, as a policy, we require that new development prepares a canopy assessment for evaluation. Because then we're gonna know, right? Then we can say like, oh gosh, it looks like your assessment here, just like the tree count, your canopy assessment says you have this much tree canopy. Our goal says we have to maintain that or enhance it. So that means you have to show us the same thing like you would on a normal tree replanting plan, but now we're not just focused on numbers, we're also focused on the canopy. What do you guys think about that?
I like that idea because you're telling them this is our community stated value.
Mm-hmm.
How is the development that you're developing contributing to that,
Mm-hmm.
or at least maintaining it?
Mm-hmm.
And you could apply that either to a site or to a whole development,
Right.
so that it gives them flexibility. Maybe, oh, we can't maintain 29% for this row of houses, but we've got a green space that they all share.
Right. Right, because you would look at the development area, you're right, and just say within here, right now, it looks like you have 25%.
Yeah.
So show us a plan sheet that how you're gonna maintain that 25% and put these houses here. Yeah,
And at least that's something. And then if they come back later and they're like, this is kind of cumbersome and awkward, we've been doing it, we have a chance to work with them to improve the process. So at least there's something on the books where there's an expectation that they are providing enough trees that we can, in the new development, that we can still maintain the amount of canopy that we have, because that is what draws a lot of people here.
mm-hmm,
That's what I heard at the market. How did you find DuPont? Why did you move from Yelm to here? Why did and I had somebody say, I don't know if I wrote it down. I wish we'd have found this place years ago, and it is the trees. I wanted to make sure I understood. So when we have our 29% for the city and you come in and do a development and you take some out, you're impacting the city's canopy, but are we saying you're surveying your little piece of the pie, and if you only have 5% canopy coverage in your little piece of the pie, that you're only putting back 5%?
right,
Okay.
right, because then they're not, the whole pie is still 29% when
Okay.
they leave, right?
I still feel like it would be better to have a number, even if it's a low number, to like a 3% or something, like just over like however many, and then we can readjust that later.
Or if we give ourselves a long enough time frame that we can have time to
Yeah.
work out the specifics.
Yeah. I guess for now we could say that if we can go back, but I don't know how that works.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you say that, if you say you're going to do 0.5% per year for the next 20 years, okay? And then somebody comes in with their piece of the pie and they're mowing everything down 5%, can we get them to put 5.5% back in?
Well, I mean, I don't know. This is kind of like, this gets complicated fast, right? So that's why I'm concerned about us trying to do
Could we?
everything that we want to do without really having the time and being able to do the analysis that we need to do.
Could we do like maintain or protect and enhance now, and then potentially in an update come in and say, okay,
Yeah.
now we want to
Yeah.
increase
Yeah.
because we have a
Just
goal
give
that we
more
want to work
information,
toward.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. we
That's
do.
kind of what I was thinking too, because I think we're still having an issue with people taking care of street trees. And so like, that's a really important thing to make sure we can maintain that so that our number actually can increase at some point. So I think, part of our first goal should be making sure that we get that out to everybody, that we need to take care of our street trees and keep them healthy. And
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you right, are you, can we make, changes on the fly here? Do you have a keyboard? Okay. Here's what I'm thinking, and I don't. Let's see, is there a mouse there? Thank you. Huh, this is gonna take some. Oh. Oh, I see it. I still have to go further, huh? Oh, boy. Zach, I don't know if I can do this. Can you do it? Can I read to you
Yeah.
and you do the typing? Okay. Or if you even just get the mouse
Yeah,
clicked in the
no,
right spot.
I'll move them out.
Okay, so I want to just go to goal 5. Okay, we're there. So I'm thinking that maybe after this discussion, we say, oops. Could you go, oh, yes, I see where I'm at. Okay, gotcha. Maybe not. Where did it go? Okay. This is not, oh, no, I see it. I'm looking at the wrong screen. That's why. How come it's not? Huh. Can you put it in front of the I for increase? Is it there? Okay. There we go. Right. And enhance. So maintain, protect, and enhance the tree's canopy. Is that a goal that you guys can work with for right now? And then we would add a policy. Look like this. I'm almost there. So P53. And that would be require new development to provide canopy to ensure no net loss of citywide percentage. That's a little wonky, but that's kind of where I was heading with that one. Yeah. Okay. So sound like that might work for right now on this.
I feel pretty good about that.
Okay. It gives us a tool we don't have.
And it's becoming fairly standard in the development process. Like that's not a crazy ask.
Right. That's what I'm thinking too.
And yeah, and that they don't even have to, those trees wouldn't even technically have to be planted on the areas that they're taking trees from. They could plant them elsewhere.
Well, I think what we would want to, well, that's a whole different topic, but I think we would absolutely want to make sure that they're in their subdivision or in their project area.
Okay.
So mitigation stuff is not, because some of the comprehensive plans do have the mitigation stuff in there. But we're not gonna, or
Do you mean the implementation?
this kind of thing, like,
Piece.
you know, you will have the canopy assessment. If you go under it, you will plant
Oh.
at a place designated by the city or
Some
something like
get
that. So-
pretty, I mean, we could work towards that, but like right now, our goals and policies in our comp plan are fairly high level and broad overall, I would say. I know some comp plans get very specific and detailed, but I think there's a fine line between doing not too ambiguous, but not too detailed. Because you kind of want them to be able to succinctly say what your expectations are, what the community's expectations are in a way that can be implemented through your
I
regulations.
guess, again, back to previous stuff, is ambiguity goes to the developer. And
I don't think this is ambiguous, what we have written at all. It's not, to me, it isn't, but does it feel ambiguous to you about what we were expecting?
I'm just talking about details versus, being higher up or being more detailed.
Yeah.
What
Well-
I've seen in the history tells me ambiguity goes to the developer.
And so, again, we've got to kind of wrap this up. Are you okay with this language?
I like
Going to the
that.
plan? Okay.
That's a policy. That's a goal. That's a
Yep.
policy. Which one?
Well, we have the goal 5, which is
Okay.
our goal that we want to maintain, protect, and enhance our tree canopy. And I'm gonna, that increase of that first language, I'll strike that. And then we added this goal, this policy. So those Ps are all the policies underneath this goal. And we added that additional 5.3 where we're gonna require that assessment of a tree canopy as part of a development proposal. I feel like I need to kind of, the language is a little wonky for the fly, but I think we can, the idea, that's what the concept is, that would be our policy now. And then when we get into like how that is actually done, we can talk through that on the code. I mean, to me, it's pretty easy. Like, this is an easy thing because we would then go to the code section when we get to that part of it, in the tree preservation ordinance, which needs a lot of work, and we'll start that in 2026. And this is an easy goal and policy to work with in terms of the regulations.
It's broad enough that it
Yeah,
gives us flexibility when we go to make recommendations on specific regulations,
yeah. I think so.
but yet still sets a
It
direction.
still sets a direction, I think, in a pretty positive way. So thank you for your work on that, but then I do think your annual work plan, which I had written that we were going to discuss that on the agenda at the end of the year, I think. I think it would be really great to have the work plan include this audit review of policies, goals, policies, and regulations. Because it'll just only get better. And these cities that have it so well developed, I mean, they've been working on it for years. So.
Okay, it's time for any announcements or comments from staff? Or, sorry, from commissioners or staff?
Maybe it's a suggestion. It doesn't really have to do with trees. I just wanted to throw it out there, because I heard that there may be, well, it sounds like there's going to be new development. And living in West Olympia and seeing that all the houses that have been developed near the water block all the public access to the water. I wanted to maybe throw an idea out there to add it to a policy of like protecting access for the public to the waterfront, to the views, to the trails.
Oh.
Just in case.
In the old Fort Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think we do have that, and I do think we did put that in there. Because that plan was adopted at the end of last year, and I think we've got a lot of detail in that one about the views and the access.
Okay, great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure. I was like, that's really important.
It is really important, and
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. It just feels like, you know, the watershed views with some of the downtown apartments that are going in, they got taller in Olympia for sure. Yeah. But I think also, we're gonna need to, we're gonna really need to test out, so the sub area again is what we adopted were some pretty good design standards and requirements, but we really need to check ourselves to make sure that we're maintaining the tree canopy, that we're making sure that the view of the water, I mean, we that's something that we need to, I think, evaluate and check, but I think we did a pretty good job with that. But it's a big document. There's a lot to it, so you could all like just sit down, cuddle up on a fall evening with the Old Fort Lake sub-area plan, read through it. Right?
It's beautiful.
a
The
beautiful
parts
piece.
I've seen.
It's a beautiful piece of work. Yeah. Thank
I'm sorry, I had one comment, which you just remind me because I had circled it on here. I just wanted to say it because Lee's here as well. ADA accessibility is like a minimum. It doesn't mean you can use a facility. So I'd really like to see use added in the park thing where it says ADA accessibility should be planned. It should be ADA accessibility and usability because
Yeah.
they don't mean the same thing. And I've taken the schools out with a wheelchair and had the teachers sit in it and the PTA and then
Yeah.
taken them out to the playground and said, tell me what you can do.
Yeah,
So you can look at everybody else playing.
yeah.
And so it's a really important concept. ADA accessibility doesn't get you very much. And I really would like to see us be a community of involvement and not of observation for our, those with disabilities.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that input.
Sorry, side one.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 6:20 and we're gonna end the tree commission meeting.
Adjourned? Are you